What happens when you make a great card game and lose your licensing agreement midway through? Well, you drink a lot, and you make wars. I'm Joe, this is Decks and Drafts, and today we're going to crack some hot garbage and talk about the marketing nightmare that is a licensing agreement. Normally, I would cue to a cool intro, except, I don't have one. I'm new, so the screen's just going to jump. It's going to be weird. Made it weird! Even changed shirts! The king of licensing agreements. Lego with Lego Batman. A much better movie than I expected it to be. Not gonna lie. But anyway, yeah, so we're talking licensing agreements today. These are not licensed, even though they're kind of cool characters. So the beer for today, just so we can get that out of the way and then show off some fun. You can see I got a lot of nonsense going on behind me. Trust me, we're gonna get into it all. I'm excited. So sorry, Flesh and Blood guys. We're not talking about that today. But, here's a foily azalea for you. Anyway, beer for today. Codename Superfan from Odd13. I think I've drank this before on this channel. But it won the last box battle for Flesh and Blood. So yeah, I got to drink it now. As far as the glass, I got this yesterday actually, and I'm actually going to pour this out since there's a lot going on. So let's go ahead and pour it out. But Codename Superfan is an IPA from Odd13 down in Louisville. I'm a big fan of them. They do a whole bunch of nerd-themed things. That's terrible. I'm like 50-50 for pours. How god-awful is this? That's even got to settle. I feel kind of bad. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, so we're going to let that settle. Glass today, if you can see it, is Wiley Roots. They're out of Greeley. They have no business being as good as they are. I'm, like I said, miserable when it comes to the pours. But yeah, anyway, let's talk some licensing shit. Like I mentioned, we're chatting about wars to begin with. This is a game from Decipher, made in 2004, 2 years after they lost the Star Wars CCG license to Wizards of the Coast. So yeah, I was a fan. Star Wars CCG was one of the first games I ever played. I originally played Magic, but I had to throw it away because Christians. I've said that too. So yeah, I've got some old Star Wars, which I don't have anything cool to show on this one. I'll show it off on the. There you go. There's a Skywalker. There's R2. I'll show it when we get over here to the to this stuff. But anyway, Decipher had this game called Star Wars. It was a great game. It was nuts because basically every set was just a whole new way to play. It's kind of like the way Villainous is right now. Simple mechanics, but everything is different. If you wanna take over Hoth, go for it. If you want to do an attack run on the Death Star and blow it to Kingdom Come, go for it. If you want to try to turn Luke over to the dark side, you absolutely could build that if you wanted to. If you wanted to kill everyone with the Cantina Band, I did. That's this deck right here. It sort of worked until Force Lightning came out and the Emperor just rocked my face. But I can kill people with, where are you, you little bastard? I can kill people with Figrin Dawn, the modal nodes. That's right. Figrin Dawn and the modal nodes. I could do that. It was awesome. It was a freaking blast. But Decipher had it going all the way through through episode 1, lost the license in 2002 to Wizards of the Coast, and said, we kind of need to survive because all we have is this, a failed Star Trek game that nobody was playing, and a lot of how to host a murder. So they came up with Wars, their own IP. This was the first time they had their own IP, but they basically just took the mechanics from Star Wars and turned it into this. So, yeah, it did not go well. They couldn't get themselves past a third set, but it's one of those many things that shows off the failures of licensing agreements. Why do these things suck so freaking much? So I'm going to flip over to Matt. We're going to crack some stuff, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. But yeah, that's basically the story. That's how we got here. Okay, so sorry for the quality shifts. I'm in OBS now, so I can do the swappy thing with the mat and actually show you cards. So yeah, there's a lot going on. But anyway, what all do we have going on? Oh, I got a mess for you today when it comes to licensed shit. So I'm going to show off some of the Star Wars stuff, partly because I've got like a whole shit ton of rares that I haven't gone through, and it'd be kind of neat to be like, where are the main characters? Do I have them? But for fun, I also got my hands on card captors from Upper Deck in Upper Deck 2001. which I liked card captors. I was an anime idiot. Not that all anime fans are idiot, but I was kind of the wrong kind of weeb. But anyway, I got that. I also... The Sailor Moon collectible card game. This one we're going to talk a little bit about. I'm going to show off the cards for these. I cracked these two open to get an idea how the game plays. Spoiler alert here, it doesn't play. It's real bad. It's so bad. And then as another one I actually play quite a bit, and this one's a little bit more interesting because it's not a licensing agreement, but it has the same exact problem. Is Final Fantasy. And we'll show some cool stuff with that you can't see because the lighting sucks. There you go, Luna Freya kicking ass. So first things first. First things first. Also, Wily Roots, you can see it now. Sorry, the poor... Yeah, terrible. So first things first. What are the values of licensing agreements? I think the big one is recognizable product, recognizable IP. If I'm a Sailor Moon fan... Which I was a little bit, and my wife very much is. She cosplays as Jupiter from time to time. If you are a Sailor Moon fan and you see this on the shelves and say, I like either games or I like Sailor Moon, the chances are that you're going to pick this up are pretty high. The problem is, when you have something like this, you need this to stand the test of time. If you're going to hold on to these things and have them push forward with sets, expansions, you need to turn your fans of the IP into card gamers. Failure to do that, and you're going to just have failed sets over and over. The nice thing when you get into stuff like Star Wars, let's just switch this over. When you get into things like Star Wars, here we go, moving on over. There's our Son of Skywalker. I'm going to kind of scroll through some of these. So with stuff like Star Wars, you're kind of catering to people who are card gamers. You're catering to kind of nerds. You're catering to the gamers. You're catering to the ones that don't mind spending hours just staring at stuff, trying to make stuff work. Like this is a franchise. This is an IP that caters to us. This is why Pokemon did well, is because, well, it's a card game based off a video game. You're going to do probably just fine. Which I know, we're going to get into the difference here. So this one's cool. Jabba's prize, Han on the back. You literally start and try to take him over. But yeah, when you have IPs that are catering to the gamers, to the ones who are going to play games, you're going to do so much better than a Sailor Moon that is just trying to say, hey, do you like Sailor Moon? Well, we made something else for you to buy. And that's why these things that's one of the main reasons especially these little ones, just tend to fail. Now, in the case of Star Wars, you have, bigger problems where, the more successful it is, well, the more money those individuals who actually own the IP are going to want from it. And that's basically what happened with Star Wars. Star Wars was like, hey, it's, you're successful. You're coming up on year 6. We want more money for this. And Decipher's like, oh. And Wizards of the Coast comes in and says, we've got that kind of capital. So we're going to snag that from you. And make a Star Wars game. And it was utter crap. It was absolute garbage. But that was kind of that's one of the risks. That's why you don't see too much. Like let's think of the other ones that you had. There was a Simpsons card game, failed miserably. Versus lasted a decent amount of time, but it didn't take off. Which I'll get into that in just a sec. Gosh, I'm trying to think of what else. Let's see. You had Netrunner. Even Android Netrunner had a similar issue where Fantasy Flight got bought by Asmodee. Asmodee was a direct competitor of Hasbro / Wizards. They owned the Netrunner IP that they just licensed out, and they said, well, no, we're not going to give you that. We're not going to let you continue Netrunner. So a great game in Android Netrunner disappears because of licensing agreement bullshit. Fantasy Flight tries to come back. They basically say, well, screw this. We're just going to buy the IP, and that's where you get Legend of the Five Rings. And that is going away now. I've learned. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess to deal with. And unfortunately, the way you counter that is not something that companies are ever going to do. which is stop relying on the damn IP. That's kind of something that, honestly, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Both did really well. They expanded on it. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! is a game that kind of sells itself, but not every card you see in the game or the ones you see in the show. Like, they truly made it its own entity. And you didn't see sets that were based off of the content that came out. And that was a really smart move. That's why Yu-Gi-Oh! Can stand the test of time, because it really made it made its own mark, its own way. It was didn't have to be paced with the show, unlike Star Wars, where you had, well, you've got, this set needs to come out. You've got Hoth that comes out. You get yourself all the way to, let's see if I've got myself let's see if I got myself a Death Star 2. There we go. You get yourself all the way to Death Star 2. You get yourself to the end of 3, right? The end of or episode 6. Sorry, not 3. The hell's wrong with me? The end of episode 6, and now you're out of content. Thankfully, the prequels came out. So you get into the prequels. You get your Darth Mauls, and you get your Qui-Gons. You get all that stuff going. But now you're at the mercy of that content. Now you are waiting for episode 2 to come out in episode 3, and you are years between releases. And this is one of those things that Decipher sort of screwed up. They had a plan, but they became at the mercy of their own content. And that's just not a smart way to go. Anyway, let's crack this thing. Let's crack Sailor Moon real quick. I'm going to show you this stuff. One of the other failures with licensing agreements, and this is another one of those things that both Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Did very well, is they showed that they actually gave a shit about the game in all of its aspects. You didn't just, like, this, as a graphic designer, this is garbage. This is trash. Like, look at it's just this, this is the font that shows up when you like copy and paste Japanese characters onto a Word doc, and it converts it. It just does the default of what it thinks it is. Like, there's just no care for this, and you're just taking screenshots. Oh my God, don't even get me started. I can create this in Photoshop. It's bevel and emboss plus an outer glow. There you go. You can make all of those, and I don't even know what the hell, like, this font looks like Arial black. You can the quality is like, I went to a gas station and bought a pack of cards. It looks bad. Like, I open these and there's nothing I'm interested in. Like, of course, if I'm a Sailor Moon fan, I got a Sailor Moon. Yay. Hold on. Huzzah! It's kind of stupid. I get Sailor Moon, Sailor Mars, a level 2 Sailor Moon. You kind of level up your Sailor Scouts. On the flip side, I get myself Sailor Mercury, Sailor Venus, no Jupiter, no Jupes. What the shit? What the hell, guys? That's it. She's on the back of the card. But, I crack one of these open. If I look like if I want to get interested in something like this, I can tell just by the quality of the card, of the design, that this is going to fail. It's going to fail miserably. Because there's just, what are you going to do? You're trapped in this. What happens if the game is successful and you get 6-7 sets out? You can't do a massive redesign. Even Magic the Gathering got close, but it was that took some time. It took a couple sets for people to be okay with that. But this is just absolute garbage. So just so you know how to play this game, like I mentioned, this game is absolutely miserable. Basically, the goal of the game is to kill 4 monsters, or get 4 Vic points. So, like, this is worth 3 VP. Oops. Come on, focus. There you go. We're 3 VP. You can play like 4 to 6. You set out your Sailor Scouts. You set out your monster. If they set out monsters, and you got to launch attacks against them and win. Problem is how do you launch attacks? Oh, this is where it gets bad. Let's see if I have one that literally says do this. I don't believe so. So the way you play this game, you launch attacks. How do you know if the attack is successful? Rock, paper, scissors. The whole game is rock, paper, scissors. I hate that. So there's no deck building. I mean, that's fine. You don't want to have a game like this be so convoluted with rules that it's going to scare away people who have never really played a card game before. But then again, if you're trying to be serious, like if that's your goal here, if you know, if you've played it, if you've made a card game once, you know that there's some element of deck building. If it doesn't matter because your rules don't give a shit about the deck, why the hell are you making why are you making expansions for this? You're really just praying to God you get lucky. That's basically kind of what happens when you get into things like this. And then all you have left is, let's hope that the IP works. And again, if you're not targeting an audience, if you're not targeting an audience at all that is really card gamers, you're just kind of hoping to get, you know, to sneak in a victory here and there, your game's gonna die. It's gonna die. It deserves to die. Card captors, not much different. I'll show you these. I'll show these off to you. I'm gonna drink a little. Show these bad boys off to you. This game is better, but not good. Card captors, if you're familiar, you got these cool cloud cards. These are the cloud cards. You're trying to capture them. Thus, card captors. It's in the name. Or card captor Sakura if you want to be a purist. Or something Japan named Sakura. I don't remember. I don't remember what it's called. Anyway, you basically have capture cards. Capture cards. They capture things. And then you try to capture the cloud cards. And you have your party that does it. This case, you have Madison, or you have Lee, or you have Sakura. You play them out. You say, I've got a capture card to go after this cloud thing. I've got to have a capture that matches. So this is fire. Fire. I got to have a capture card that matches. So screw you, Kiro. There we go. Have to have a capture card that matches. The way that the game is really played is that when I say I'm going to go after this, the opponent can say, I'm going to meet you. I'm going to meet you on the field. On the scene, as it's called. I'm going to meet you on the scene, and if I'm here and you're here, then we basically have to beat the crap out of each other before one of us can come here. Like, whoever wins when they show up, whoever's better when they show up, gets a chance to come after the cloud card. That's not bad. There's nothing else. Like, you'll notice that there's no text really outside of a number and a type and the word capture. The only text are in these strategy cards. And that's it. This is the only play mechanics. This is fine. This is fine for a one-off card game that has no business being a trading card game. It shouldn't be. This is one of those, you do it in one big box, you have a whole bunch of things, and maybe you can put in other cards that you can manipulate the deck with, but there's no reason to turn this into a long-lasting set. It makes no sense for it. The game is too simple. Again, it's not targeted at that group of people. So don't frickin' do it. Don't try to expand this. Don't get your little kid to say, I want card captor cards for something that their parents know they're not going to play. Because there's really just nothing to the game. Again, instantly countered with cards like Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, again, in the case of Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm watching people play a card game. I'm going to love the crap out of that. I'm going to be all over it. And even then, there's rules. There's words, there's text, there's logic and critical thinking with this. So kids can look and kind of feel more accomplished. I think that's one of the other things that just card games in general just don't understand, is that there's a certain level of accomplishment when you make kind of an engine work. I have a bigger number than your number is not something to get excited about, even if you're playing a card game for the first time. There's no feeling of excitement in I made something work. And when you do a license, when you tack that onto, well, we just wanted to put somebody's face that you like on it, hoping that you buy it, people are going to see through that. And that's, you know, it doesn't last. All right, so let's push forward with the anomaly. We've covered a couple issues here. One, you got to kind of, you know, if you have licensed content, you got to kind of follow if you try to follow the story as it goes, similar to Decipher, you find yourself a little locked up. You find yourself kind of at their mercy. So you kind of need to make it your own world. You need to be able to branch beyond it. 2, if you're successful and don't own that license, well, you end up having to pay more money for it. The game has to be more successful for you to keep it, such as when Wizards took it over from Decipher, saying we've got more budget. 3, you run the risk of trying to cater to a group of people who are just not card gamers. You're not really tapping into the right group of people who are willing to go the test of time with you. This is cute to just have. But to be, a year down the road, you're not going to have that same audience saying, I can't wait for the new set of Sailor Moon to come out. You are asking people to basically develop a hobby. That's just really not in their wheelhouse. I'm not saying it's impossible at all. It's just not very likely. And when you're up against those other challenges of revenue and timing and all of that, you're in trouble. You're in a heck of a lot of trouble. Like I said, in the case of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, we're catering to gamers. We've developed a world outside of the content that you're watching, so it's a lot easier for people to get invested. Additionally, the other thing that I have to appreciate about those games that we also mentioned was that there's, there's a strategy that you can build around. Like, this is a game that is won by rock, paper, scissors. There's not a lot of glory in that. Even if I'm brand new to card games, winning by rock, paper, scissors, I can't really appreciate the thrill of that. Even somebody new is not that dumb. Let's just be real honest. So yeah, when you have games like Pokemon that have a lot of, rules, I like being able to play with Pikachu, and I like that there are different Pikachus that do different things, and I build a deck that's going to work for me. As a 5, 6, 7-year-old even, don't treat them like they're idiots. Give them that sense, give them that logic, that logic and that critical thinking. Give them those opportunities, and they're going to fall in love with the game. There's nothing here with the my number is bigger than your number. Neat, cute. You clearly didn't care as much about the card game as you did about putting a face on it, or a logo in this case, that you wanted. That stuff shows. Don't waste people's time by trying to make it into a CCG. So let's get into one more before we whip out the wars and talk about the real issues. So the last one I want to talk about is Final Fantasy. I have a lot of feelings on Final Fantasy, but we're already hitting 20 minutes, so I'm not going to go too nuts. So Final Fantasy is a game that doesn't have the licensing problem. That's unique to them. Final Fantasy is actually put out by Square Enix. They are the owners of the license, so they can take this as far as they want and do whatever they want. This leads to some really cool things. It also leads to some very stupid marketing decisions. Let's talk about the cool things. First off is, they can kind of go at their own pace. They did, in fact, make this game kind of its own entity. Now, they haven't done the cool stuff where, they haven't done cool stuff until recently with, like what Yu-Gi-Oh! Will do, where you kind of have a theme and everything centers around the theme. You see that from time to time, like, there's Crystal Awakening and you've got the multi-element. It's starting to trickle in a little bit more. But the other nice thing that's super cool is that you get unique shit. Like, look at this. This is custom art made for this game. This is Luna Freya from 15. I'm just going to show all these off. This is Renault. Oh, come on. Doesn't help if you don't focus. Let's go. Focus. Renoa from FF8. We almost had it. There we go. I'm just going to have my hand here. Minfield, good lord, right? This is absolutely nuts. FF14, Yuna from FF10. Like, they get to commission all of these things. And it's they get to use it for other elements, of course. But this, there's Bart's. There's my girl B from FF9. So you get some really cool fan service. Some wonderful fan service. The game is actually a blast. You can see there's there are definitely rules. If I'm a fan of Chocobos, you can play Chocobo deck. If I'm a fan of FF9, which I very much am, you can play an FF9 deck. The game is great. Why is this struggling so damn much to find an audience? It wasn't until recently they cracked the top 10. I think last spring they were number 7 as far as top 10, but before that they couldn't crack the list. As far as selling CCGs. They almost did, and then Keyforge showed up and was super popular for a year. So much for that. But one of the other pitfalls of licensing agreements as a marketer is if you think that the IP is going to sell the game, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. It's going to introduce people to the game, but it's not going to sell the game any further. Again, it's not going to stand the test of time. This is cute to get people in the door, but now you got to keep them in the house. And unfortunately, when you're a company like Square Enix, you think that because it says Final Fantasy, people are going to look at that and say, we're good, we're great, I'm going to keep this rolling. Like, I love that, I love Final Fantasy, I'm just gonna play the game. I'm just gonna play it. That's great. Day one, doesn't work 2, 3, 4 years down the road. And unfortunately, Square Enix has done jack diddly nothing for marketing to introduce people to this game existing. So they're not doing anything to try to bring in new people. They're not really doing anything to keep people here. Like, these are cool. They just started to add chase cards and whatnot, but this is part of the product. This is product purchase. Getting outside of that, the only other real thing that you've got some full arts. That's cute. You get some dice. That's part of their, that's part of their promo kit, their organized play kit. You see occasionally mats, but most of like mats, sleeves, those are things that come as part of pre-release kits. They're things that can be purchased. There's not a lot of, I play the game with everyone else, and I don't have anything to really show like how cool is it for me to have made a longer investment in this game. Look at all this cool shit that I have because of the longer investment. Look at all the cool stuff that I have for being a part of the card game community of Final Fantasy. They seem to be thinking that if you're a part of the Final Fantasy community with a card game, that's going to do enough. You can get away with that in Japan. Japan is very loyal to IP. You can't get away with that here. You can't even get away with that with Star Wars here, is that there's so much divide. I'm at the point where I've got Luna Freya, let's see, this is 15, 8. A lot of people haven't even played 14, so neat. 10, 5, a lot of people haven't played 5, not enough people have played 9. Now I'm starting to break into elements of Final Fantasy that I haven't even touched. Brave Exodus, I don't even know. I don't even remember what they're called. Now we're starting to break into pieces of IP where I feel like I have to be a dedicated fan to care about it. Like, I never played FF Tactics Advance 2, probably a mistake. But I care less about the characters now. And I know that you've got new content coming out, and as a license, I'm at the mercy of that new stuff. And if I'm not following that new stuff as a video game player in the case of Final Fantasy, and you have to inject it into the card game, I'm going to care less about it. I don't care about Brave Exodus. I don't care. Like, I see those cards, I'm like, that's cool, that's useful, but I can't get excited about what's here because I feel some weird obligation to kind of know and appreciate the characters as it's part of a franchise that I love. That's why things like Magic can get away with people geeking out over brand new shit that they've never seen before, because you're all learning it together. You don't feel left behind when you get introduced to a new character in the game because, well, you all see them for the first time. That's one of the nice things about Flesh and Blood. There's no Flesh and Blood TV show that I'm supposed to be watching. Don't make one. There's not a Flesh and Blood TV show that I can follow that if I see a new set with this new character, I suddenly feel left behind. I don't. I'm learning them for the first time. That's another plague of licensing. I feel there's an obligation for me to follow and appreciate the franchise. If I don't follow the franchise, half of this stuff doesn't care. I don't care about it. If the franchise is still going strong, like Final Fantasy, new stuff that I might not want to follow because I'm getting away from video gaming or I just don't have time, it comes in and I care less about it. That lessens my investment. That lessens the fun and the excitement for me. So let's get into wars. Let's figure out where to put those. It's actually some really expensive stuff in that. So let's talk about wars. To wrap this bad boy up. Sorry this was super long, but it's marketing stuff. I hope that it was interesting. I of course would love your feedback and love your thoughts. And if anything, this is just shit for the background. It's background noise. Enjoy background noise. So the Star Wars card game. Like I said, this game was modeled off of the Star Wars card game. Star Wars card game was all about force. Your deck was your life. Oh, come on. I have that. There we go. Your deck was your life. Your deck was your resource. The deck was all. The deck was everything. You had these locations. You had on the field. You put people down on the field. Oh, do I have to... I don't want to do... Do I have anybody fun? Do I have anybody neat? Boba. Boba Loba. Do Boba Fett. Boba Fett. So you have Boba Fett down on locations. He's going to locations, and the idea is that the more locations you control at certain parts of the turn, the opponent has to start losing what's called force, which is basically their deck, their hands, their life total. They have to start losing it from from anywhere they want to. So I've got one little icon over here. That's this lightsaber icon. If what's called control, meaning there's nobody over there, I can drain you for 1 force. I say I've got an overwhelming authority that's going to cost you 1 of your life every turn because I control this spot. And you whittle down and whittle down and whittle down. Occasionally, of course, you can throw in, you have fun little battles where we'll get Chewie. Seems fitting, right? You get Chewbacca. They're at a thing together. They can fight. Stuff happens. Battles go and yada yada. There's a whole long thing. You can actually play the game for free on GEMP, GEMP.swccg.com. I hope. Just search for GEMP and then Star Wars. You'll find it. The game's actually a hell of a lot of fun. But anyway, that's essentially the way that the game goes. And you just build up all these locations and you just try to control. You can choose to control as much of the board as humanly possible, or you can go tall and just own the crap out of one location. Or you have these things called objectives. Where the hell are you? Come on, give me one of them. You have these objectives. It's actually easier to look this way. That's why. You have these objectives that you can also achieve. So in this case, it's Raltier operations. If you satisfy the objectives on this card, it flips over and you get these effects, and these effects can be pretty nuts. So it's this push and pull. It's a little solitaire, except for like the 1 or 2 big moments where you go and try to just screw the opponent's plans. It's pretty epic. It can be pretty spectacular. Wars tries to do the same thing because the game was a hell of a lot of fun. I'm just gonna crack this. I have no clue what I'm in for. I played this game for like an hour. I was like, I'm not interested. Part of the challenge of new IP, especially if you know it's coming off an old IP, is like I kind of have to give a shit about the characters. Oh, these are cool. Wow. Some pretty sick art though. Like that's some wild. It looks like the Lost in Space. Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. The crappy movie, not anything else. So in this case, yeah, it looks like we've got characters. Here's those locations I was talking about. So in this case, you're spreading out locations. Oh, come on. Do we have to do there we go. We're spreading out locations, trying to control these things. And you try to go tall. This game also leveraged destiny numbers as well. So, flip the top card of the deck. And it was really interesting. It was really kind of cool. Queer Life Ship. Like, I dig the art. They spent a lot of money on their own artwork. The card quality is, card quality is not terrible. It's not terrible. I think the challenge here is that the game just wasn't Star Wars. It just wasn't. These are kind of neat, though. So everyone's looking at this and is like, well, you're not Star Wars. Here's your here's your lightsaber icons. I showed you the one that you choose to control, and you get 2 here. There we go. Systems. So you can basically do starships there. I told you it's a ship, so these are ships. So yeah, I mean, I think when you have wars, that was probably a decent idea. I feel honestly that you probably could have gotten away with this if you didn't have Star Wars, if you didn't make the same game as Star Wars. And it's kind of unfortunate that it failed as it did, because the game was an absolute blast. Okay, these look to be kind of the same. So these are starters. They take forever. I'm going to go ahead and I want to open a couple packs of something. I don't know where the rares are. I don't know what's good about them. This is from the Incursion set. Couldn't even tell you what set that was. Let's see. There are 330 games to collect in the set, plus a subset of foil cards, 18 of which are found in booster packs, 1 in 7 packs approximately. So we've got some chase buddies. So they did that part right? They've got a little bit of a chase mechanic. So yeah, we're gonna let's crack these and see how we do. They do not open very well. Really, I'm just going to search for foils. I haven't even seen this, so I think they had different factions. Like I said, I have no clue what the rares are. They don't actually tell me. No, they do. They do. Bottom, very bottom. I don't even know if you can see it. 1C. So commons, 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 common. There's a rare. Sprinkles deal. Whatever that ultimately means. It's an interrupt, lost, so literally verbiage from Star Wars. Uncommon, uncommon. A lot of uncommon. Oh, no, never mind. Couple commons, lots of uncommons. Nothing chase, though. Nothing cool. So yeah, Decipher's downfall with Wars was basically they did create the same game, and everyone's like, ugh, this, you know, it's a consolation prize. Couldn't get past 3. Couldn't get past 3 sets. I'm just going to blast through. Gambler is my rare. I feel like that's one that looks like it would be expensive if there was anything expensive about this game. There is not. That is not a thing. One more pack. I'll let y'all go. Like, I mean, the artwork's not bad. It's really not bad. Like, they really did. They built a whole world. Oh, look, we got a foil. Foil, what are you? I can't even see that. Like, I need, let's see. I need glasses. How close? Nope, nope. Yeah, I need glasses for that. Couldn't tell you what that's like. So, yeah, anyway, that's kind of where we're at with Wars. Hey, I got a foil, 1 out of 7. Got a chase. I'll go see how many cents that's worth online. But yeah, let's flip this back over. Finish our little chats as I finish my little beer here. So those are some of the marketing pitfalls. Those are some of the challenges of the licensing and why it just kind of doesn't work. Why games like Magic and why games like Flesh and Blood really are kicking off. I think that Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Did a lot of things right. They didn't treat their audience like they were idiots. They didn't treat them like they were just trying to sell them a cute package with a face that they acknowledged and recognized. The games are not necessarily the easiest to play. Pokemon's pretty simple, but there's still an element of strategy. It also caters to a younger audience, but again, of people who are gamers to begin with, of people who are kind of fascinated with that world, and even kids who are playing Pokemon, you know, at that point, they probably will have no problem playing more with this. Sailor Moon isn't necessarily like a 5-year-old show. Pokemon absolutely is. But it's catered to, you know, more players. It started out as a video game, and, well, it started out as a show, started out as a video game. The game's been able to grow, and because there's a level of difficulty with it, yeah, adults are going to continue with the game. They're going to keep going and keep growing. Those are the right decisions to make. Don't give me a licensed game that's all cute, but is so fucking basic, that there's no element of strategy. You can't expand on this except show me other pictures. So fucking what? Who cares? So yeah, that's my story of licensing, and I'm sure I can go a hell of a lot more into it and actually show some stuff off, but I kind of did this maybe a little bit on a whim. We'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming soon, but in the meantime, thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.